It's National Women's Month. Every March, we honor all Filipinas who have achieved groundbreaking success in different fields, especially the sciences. And yet, why do women make up only 36% of the STEM workforce, according to research? My name is Beatriz Cruz, a multimedia reporter from BusinessWorld. In this B-side episode, I speak with a Filipina engineer based in the Netherlands, Engineer Carlota Salamat Andres. She serves as the Director of Engineering at NXP Semiconductors, a semiconductor manufacturing company in Eindhoven. Engineer Salamat Andres talks about why we need more women in STEM amid the rise of artificial intelligence and other technological advancements.
Thank you so much for giving the time to be able to talk to us today. First of all, happy National Women's Month. Of course, it's hard to celebrate this special month without recognizing the different women who contribute so much to different fields, especially the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields. So as you know, you are a woman in STEM, so kindly tell us where it all began. Talk to us about how your interest in semiconductors and electronics started. What inspired you to become an engineer?
Yeah, so growing up, I always like math and science, but I also have affinity on history. So when I was planning to pursue for my bachelor university degree, I was thinking actually economics in UP as a preparation for law. But on my senior year of high school, I applied for a Department of Science and Technology scholarship, and I got in. But in this scholarship, of course, it's only valid for sciences and engineering. So immediately I know it is engineering, but then deciding on electronics. So this is a long time ago, Bea. So that's 95, 96. And in terms of technology landscape, we are transitioning from analog to digital communication. So think about the big analog phones. Probably you don't know it, but it's really kilos. And then we are transitioning to 2G mobile phones. So now we are in 5G, but at the time, it was really a breakthrough that we're transitioning to 2G. So that was really quite interesting in terms of the field. Electronics is quite new, but I think the final push for me was to credit one of my female role models. So at Cherry, she's she's the sister of my high school friend, and she's the first female engineer I know. She was working at Ericsson at the time, was the forefront, the company that the forefront for 2G and 3G development. And that was really cool for me. So just knowing that, and that really pushes the edge for me to switch from economics to electronics.
Right. And interestingly, I could imagine at that time there weren't enough female engineers in the field back then. And I saw this study from LinkedIn that said that women only made up 36.3% of the STEM workforce. So can I talk about this, ma'am? Is there still seemingly a lack of female representation in a traditionally male-dominated field like engineering still to this day?
Yeah, I mean, it's mentioned 36, right? And I think, to be honest, Philippines is already on the high side of it. So if you look other countries, it's even worse, like where I am now in the Netherlands, unfortunately. So I think to understand it, we really need to see where we drop the female participation in terms of education and the career. So last year, McKinsey published an article about it, but it's more a context of European women. But we can really apply it because I think those are really critical points. So the first drop-off that they see is from high school to university. I think in the Philippines it's less, but still we lose women because that less women are taking technical courses in the university. And I think it's still the perception that men are better in terms of technical or even on sciences, which is of course not true, right? Everyone is capable. We start in elementary with the same competence in math and sciences, but it's still the perception of being hands-on, having a bit more knowledge in technical. That's the first one. The second drop-off is the transition from university to the first job. So I think in the Philippines, it's a combination of less preparation. So I think if we have more internship for women, we can prepare them for the workforce much better. And then also it's really just lack of opportunities within semicon or even technical companies. The last part is mid-career. So we lose women that they stop working or they choose a different career, which is less taxing when you're combining family. Unfortunately, while it is improving, the burden is still on women to do more at home while juggling the career.
And I wanted to ask, because you said that you started in government, that was your first job. How was
Yes.
that experience back then? And of course, again, how did it aid you for what was to happen in the years to come?
Yeah, it is really. I mean, it's this almost the same group from the university, so it's like an extension of UP. To be honest, it's even on the campus. So it is really a lot of research and then also communication with the stakeholders. So for me, that is what was strengthened. So the scientific process, but also communication with the different stakeholders, either in government, in a research institute, collaborating for projects under the OST.
Right? Because the OST's office is just by the elliptical.
Yeah,
UP.
indeed.
So, yeah, you were encountering the same
I
people.
haven't been there for years, but
Really?
yeah, it was just opposite of math building at the time. So
Still looks the same, ma'am. But
yeah,
you said that, well, I saw that you did graduate school in Japan. And of course,
Mhm.
it's a different field, different kind of people that you're interacting with. So, how's the learning experience in the Philippines different from abroad?
Yeah.
Are there
So
similarities?
it's yeah. So it is under the Japanese Ministry of Education scholarship where it's offered for different countries, students from different countries. So what is different, of course, I have to learn Japanese. In the first 6 months, I have to learn Japanese parallel to the lab work that I was doing. The research environment is very similar, but then the focus is more on publishing, on journals, conferences. So there's really a lot of focus before you graduate. You have to have certain number of papers published. Diversity-wise, it is worse compared to when I was in Philippines. When I was studying there, I was the only female student in our for that year, Masters of Electronics. So yeah, that was a bit challenging. But it also made me really more flexible and open in general. So which I think really helped me in moving in the Netherlands and also in my career. That be open in general. Things are different, but yeah, how are you going to deal with it, and then try to be flexible in this new environment.
Very impressive, ma'am. And you mentioned that getting into grad school, you did not only focus on like practical and theoretical learnings, but you also had to learn how to publish journals, to write. So, just to summarize all these things, what are the critical skills for budding engineers and people in the science field that they should be aware of, that they should equip themselves with?
Yeah, so it's really the process, right? So once you have the habit of doing it, so yeah, like documenting your results, right? It's very important if you're in the technical field and especially on research. What is the problem we're trying to solve? What is the process, step by step? What are the findings? And then really closing from the hypothesis. What are the results? Even if it's not what you expect, there are learnings also over the duration of the experiment. But it's really having that whole process and in whatever topic that you do. Hypothesis, investigation, and then really looking at the results, reviewing it with really basing on facts.
I'm a person from the Hume, so I could only imagine how important it is to have the scientific method, following a certain process to be able to get your results. I also wanted to ask, what were the challenges that you faced from being an engineering student to practicing into the field, and how did you overcome them?
So for me, it's working on a global company that you have to get used to communicating at different levels of organization, also different location, right? But here it's just practice. The more you practice, the less intimidating it can be. There's just no workaround for it. Second thing is transitioning from research to academe to industry is the realization that the work you do has business consequence. It is motivating because there's a direct impact, but it can also be intimidating that when things work, that's good. You have a design win of million of dollars. But if it doesn't work or it also is delayed, then it has also business consequence, right? So it gets, you need time to get used to that and be comfortable. And I think the key is really just being transparent, what can be done, what is not feasible, and then being transparent in that communication to your stakeholders.
Can you expand further, ma'am, what it means to have these business consequences?
Yeah, for example, you are part of the team that is developing the chip, right? And the customer needs it end of the year. Yeah. If you don't make it end of the year, right, then another competitor might win the business. So there's really direct consequence on slipping things, right? If things are delayed or it doesn't work, and it can happen, right? So for a company like NXP, it's really more mitigating the risk. Right? How can we minimize the risk and make sure that we meet the deadline, and then anticipating things that can be potential problem.
How was your experience working at the semiconductor and electronics industry in the Netherlands?
I joined as a validation engineer. So the role is that we test our chips these are the chips that are used in mobile phones. And then I need to make sure that they meet the specification, that they work, there's no issue before we send it to the customer. So the core competence is what they look for. Yeah, so it's the knowledge in semiconductor, the field of specialization, high frequency was already my focus area in the Philippines, also in Japan. So transitioning to NXP Netherlands was easier. So it's more applying on the real products and then learning new tools and new equipment. But I see that what differentiates, and I have several Filipino colleagues also in NXP Netherlands. Yeah, Filipinos are very hardworking, and we really are willing to take the extra steps.
How has the treatment for females in the industry been, given that you said that the percentage of women working in the SME industry is still pretty low?
Yeah. So when I joined, I was the youngest, and I think out of 40 engineers, I'm one of the 4, and 3 are foreign women, right? So that's how diverse it was. But fortunately for me, and I only have male managers throughout my career in the Netherlands, I really don't feel that I was hampered or really discriminated by that. I've most of the time I feel that being only women in the team is more an advantage. I collaborate more with men. So for me, it was easier. When I transitioned to managing the team, that's when I see a bit, there's a need for more women representation, because when I was a young engineer, I don't normally ask about salary increase. I don't ask for the next promotion. But then when I transitioned to manager role, then I can see the difference from the female engineers that report to me versus the male engineers that report to me. That really that dynamics. And then for female, it just doesn't come as natural to ask for things. For that, we need to facilitate more as a manager and also as a company.
Of course, we still hear these stories about the gender pay gap, that women in general still get paid less. And was this a thing before, and is this still a thing until now? Your insights on this?
Yeah, I think it is improving, but it's still not. I think there was a study like for every dollar a man paid, it's 70 cents for women, right? So there's still delta on it. And I think it's not the nature of women to ask for salary. I think the mentality is that I will do my job. If the result is good, then my manager will notice it, right? Versus a male engineer who's really asking for it. So I think that one, we really need to normalize it, that as women, we need to be more proactive about our career development. What are the next steps? And for that, yeah, I think mentoring is really good. And then really make that normal as a normal conversation, right, for women
You talked
and
ab-
men, right?
okay. You talked about mentoring, Engineer Carlota. What is your advice to a young person who aspires to be an engineer, or
Mhm.
be in the science field, or just any field in general where they feel like their gender is hampering their development?
To look for role models. I think it really gives you confidence to do the next steps, to really go for it when you see female role models who have done it in the past, that there's a path forward and that it can be done. So that's one. And I think the mindset of trusting yourself, it doesn't have to be everything is clear, but trust in your innate competence that you will figure out along the way, right? So ask for help, but also be brave. Be brave in taking the next steps, even if, as women, we always see if there's an opening, we have to do 9 out of 10 before we even apply, right? But trust in your innate competence that you will learn things. It's in the end just how motivated you are and how driven you are to learn the thing. There's always a way for it.
Great, great. I wanted to ask again because you already mentioned that Philippine engineers and Filipinos in the science field are pretty much respected and recognized for their contributions even abroad. And the Philippines sees this opportunity, and they have a goal of producing 128,000 engineers and technicians by 2032. What could be the drivers or the challenges to achieving this goal? And you know, how likely can the Philippines achieve this target?
Well, I like setting challenging targets. I think I'm happy that there's a focus on this. I think we can debate about the year, but important is that we set that challenging target and that the focus is there. On producing and the engineers and the technician, we have to promote, make it really very visible, and lessen the barrier for students to pursue career in semiconductors. I mean, a good example of this scholarship making difference, right, under the DOST scholarship. And we have to ensure that good electronics bachelor's, master's, and even doctorate program are easily accessible in the Philippines, not just in Manila that you have to be there, but really good quality has to be really decentralized and more accessible in the Philippines, but also that we have access abroad, right? Programs in abroad, also companies abroad, companies in the Philippines. So having the pipeline of students taking electronics is one thing, but we also need to ensure that they are prepared and then we know where to deploy them, right? Hopefully they are not all going out of the Philippines, right? And that they can immediately contribute, be successful, and have thriving careers in the Philippines or outside Philippines, right? But preferably, of course, in the Philippines. So we have to ensure that the curriculum is relevant, that we have more university industry collaboration, joint projects, in-company internships, and of course, it really helps if we have a strong semiconductor industry also.
When you got into the engineering field, you said that the world was adopting to analog and 2G, but now we're already in 5G. Now we
Yeah.
have AI, cybersecurity, digital transformation. So, how will these trends shape the demand for engineers and technicians, and what kind of skills are expected from them?
Yeah, I think it is. If you really look at the trends, it's really will be the combination of things that you have a high performing chip coupled with the software, with machine learning, with AI. So we really need to think about it in terms of the application and not just the functionality of the chip. What are the use cases? And then see it really from a user point of view. Then we can add what are the important parameters and then translate it to the functionality of the chip. So it's the other way around, not really understand the use case and then what differentiate. Is it low power, low energy? Is it about latency? Then we can really translate it on the functionality of the chip and not focus really on on the chip itself, but more on the application. Second is, of course, agility. We have to be really open and learning new skills, right? There's a lot of technology and tools evolving. We have to be able to be agile to learn these kind of things. And part of it is really the curiosity that, be curious what's happening in the world, what trends are emerging, and how it affects the technology, but also how it will be affecting the way we interact as society.
What are the other ways that the government, academic institutions, and the private sector can do to be able to ensure that there are opportunities for these budding engineers and technicians?
Yeah, I think on collectively, right? We have to have a strategy where we want to focus on. Semiconductor is a very huge field. What will be our focus now, while we build our long-term goal? Currently, we are very strong in back-end, so meaning assembly and test.
Mm-hmm.
But the same is true for Malaysia, Vietnam, and Thailand, right? I really believe that the differentiating factor for us is our talent. So how do we attract more companies to have their manufacturing and even some research and development team here in the Philippines that we can support and provide more opportunities for the engineers, and then also to strengthen the whole ecosystem, right? And then parallel for the long term, how can we build the design capabilities? So design capabilities where you can offer more differentiation aside from manufacturing. And how can we really harness the talent pool of engineers and technicians that we have?
How do you envision the future of women in the engineering field and the sciences in general?
I am very hopeful. I'm also a very optimistic person. So I think a lot of breakthroughs in technologies like self-driving, green technology, AI, and it will be even more integrated in our lives. So it's therefore important that we have diverse views. It cannot be it's designed by a single population, right? We have to have diverse views and expertise in creating this solution. So with the opportunities and impact to the society, I'm really hopeful that more young women will choose career in tech. And it's not just because it's required, but really the women, young women really see the value and the impact on the society for these careers.
This has been another episode of B-Side. Subscribe now and enjoy industry insights on Philippine business and beyond.